Welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to completely change how you think about your liver. You know, we so often treat it like this passive trash can for junk food and bad habits. But really, your liver is a highly sophisticated organic computer. It is constantly reading signals, processing data, and making split-second metabolic decisions. So today, we're going to look at how we can literally reprogram that computer to reverse fatty liver disease, all using plant-based nutrition. So is fatty liver a permanent life sentence? When most of us hear the words non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, our immediate association is irreversible scarring. We picture this unavoidable progression toward worse and worse health. Honestly, it feels like a life sentence handed down after years of poor habits. But I want to challenge that misconception right out of the gate. Because here is the deeply empowering reality. Fatty liver is not a static condition. It's a dynamic state. And yes, it is reversible. Remember how we said your liver is an active organic computer? Because it's continuously responding to nutrient and hormonal signals, it doesn't just collect damage and sit there. It actually adapts. By changing the specific signals we send it, we can shift liver fat metabolism entirely. Now, what's really interesting about this is the great plot twist of fatty liver disease. There's this massive misconception that liver fat comes directly from eating too much dietary fat or sugar. But the data shows something completely different. Only about 15% comes directly from dietary fat, and 25% is newly produced in the liver itself. But a massive 60% actually comes from free fatty acids released from your own existing body fat stores. That means the dietary sugar and fat you ate yesterday, they aren't the primary direct culprits. Instead, it's really all about an increased flux of fat, physically moving from your body into your liver. Okay, so why is that fat suddenly rushing from your body stores straight into your liver? Well, the main driver is insulin resistance. We know that insulin basically acts as the master switch for systemic energy regulation and lipid partitioning. Under healthy, normal conditions, it beautifully regulates fuel storage. But when resistance develops, that vital signaling breaks down, and this forces the liver into a state of chronic metabolic stress and completely uncontrolled fat flux. It literally causes lipids to flood right into the organ where they absolutely do not belong. Think of it this way. When that master switch jams, your liver basically starts executing bad code. It's not punishing you, and it's not randomly deciding to fail. It's just following corrupted hormonal instructions. First, it starts hoarding incoming energy as fat. Second, it aggressively ramps up triglyceride production. And simultaneously, it actually reduces its own efficiency at oxidizing or burning fat. The liver is essentially tricked into hoarding fuel rather than processing it normally. And this brings us to a huge debate in the metabolic space. You know, low-carb approaches often label all carbs as the ultimate enemy of the liver. But it's really not simply about the presence of carbohydrates. It's about the metabolic environment they create. Refined carbohydrates rapidly dump glucose and fructose into your system, and yeah, that promotes fat synthesis. But whole carbohydrates, things like legumes, intact grains, and vegetables, they digest slowly. They come naturally packaged with fiber, which beautifully moderates your glucose absorption and keeps your insulin response perfectly steady. In short, the liver just doesn't get overwhelmed. And you know, this exact same principle of food quality applies to dietary fats too. On one hand, diets that are super high in saturated animal fats and ultra-processed foods are strongly associated with reducing insulin sensitivity and just compounding that metabolic stress. But on the flip side, substituting those with unsaturated plant fats, so think nuts, seeds, and full plant foods, that actively improves your metabolic outcomes. It literally lifts the heavy metabolic load right off the liver over time. Which brings us to the ultimate reprogramming blueprint. Research consistently demonstrates that whole food, plant-based dietary patterns are associated with lower liver fat and vastly improved metabolic markers. And here is a truly fascinating detail. While these improvements often happen alongside weight loss, the benefits to liver fat and insulin metabolism can actually occur completely independent of weight loss. Just let that sink in. The food quality alone is repairing the signaling. A massive part of that reprogramming comes down to the biological magic of fiber. Fiber acts as this fresh, healthy code for your liver, and it does it in 3 distinct steps. First off, soluble fiber binds to bile acids in your intestine. Since bile acids are made from cholesterol, your body is forced to pull circulating cholesterol to make more, which safely reduces your internal burden. Second, fiber feeds your good gut bacteria. This produces short-chain fatty acids that reduce systemic inflammation and actively shield the liver. And third, whole plant foods naturally lower the energy density of your meals, meaning you spontaneously reduce your calorie intake without feeling starved or restricted.
Now, we also have to give a quick highlight to omega-3 fats. Sourced from wonderful plant foods like flax, chia, hemp, and walnuts, omega-3s are absolutely fantastic for supporting cardiovascular health and lowering blood triglycerides. However, to be super clear on the evidence here, they aren't magic pills. Just adding a chia seed pudding to an ultra-processed diet isn't going to fix a fatty liver. They require a broader, holistic, whole food plant-based framework to truly get in there and do their job.
So what does actual reversal look like in the real world? We are definitely not talking about some magical overnight fix based on an internet fad. True improvement is tracked with hard data. We're looking for a measurable reduction in intrahepatic fat on imaging scans, vastly improved ALT and AST liver enzymes in your blood work, and significantly lower fasting triglycerides and insulin levels. Over time, all of this points to improved systemic insulin sensitivity. This is exactly what it looks like when the metabolic stress is finally lifted off your system.
Which really leads us to our core takeaway today. It is not a detox. It is a metabolic reset. The wellness industry absolutely loves throwing around the word detox, but a plant-based diet doesn't literally scrub the liver clean with a brush. Instead, by giving your liver the right signals, more fiber, unsaturated plant fats, complex carbohydrates, you drastically reduce its metabolic burden, you step back and allow this incredibly resilient organ to naturally return to normal regulatory function and reverse that fat accumulation all on its own.
Which leaves us with a truly fascinating question to end on today. How does your gut actually talk to your liver? We briefly touched on gut bacteria and inflammation just now, but the biochemical communication pathways between your digestive tract and your liver are absolutely mind-blowing. They shape your health in ways most people have literally never even heard of. But we are going to have to save that deep dive for our next explainer. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and remember, your body is an amazing machine. You just have to give it the right code. See you next time.